Welcome to a new video on the Photography Minimalist. This video is about a camera I thought I would never buy and use, let alone start to appreciate and want to use it again. This is a video about the Zenit-E, a camera of which more than 3.3 million were built, and this specific model comes from 1971. So what brought me to buy a Zenit-E? Well, roughly 2 weeks ago I walked into a thrift shop and this was the only camera they had in the showcase. And the camera included its standard Helios 2.0 58mm lens. And the price of this camera was €7.50. So that's a bargain, even if it's a Zenit-E. Now the most important thing with these type of cameras is that you need to make sure that it works. So I checked the camera thoroughly and quickly found out that it was in perfect condition. So this is what it sounds like. They started manufacturing this camera in 1968, and this specific camera is from 1971. When you look on the back of the camera, it has a serial number, and the first numbers it starts with, in this case 71, is the date that the camera was built. So this one was built in 1971. As I mentioned, it came with its standard Helios 58mm 2.0 lens. This 58mm already starts to get into the range of short telephoto. I am a photographer that prefers a wide-angle lens, a 28mm or a 35mm. So for the first film, the AGFA APX 100, which I used in this camera, I put on my Chinon 28mm 2.8 lens. This is a lens that has both an automatic and a manual aperture setting, and that's important if you want to use M42 mount lenses on this camera body, because the camera itself does not trigger the spigot on the lens to go to the aperture that it's set on before it takes the photo. As you know, automatic aperture lenses always give you a wide open aperture to focus on your subject, and when you take the picture it automatically stops down to the aperture that the lens is set on. So in this case with the Zenit, where the body does not trigger this spigot, you need to take that into account. So only use manual aperture lenses or automatic aperture lenses which have a manual switch like this Chinon. There are a few quirks to this camera. For example, when you want to rewind your film, you have to turn and let this small spigot come up, and at the same time you compress this small button next to the shutter button. And then you can rewind your film and compress this spigot back into the camera. It's very easy once you know how it works. Besides that, the shutter speed ranges to 1/500th of a second, the slowest being 1/30th of a second, and of course including B, where you have to pull up the dial to change the shutter speed. Preferably you change the shutter speed after you've advanced the film, but for this camera it's not a necessity. Besides that, it has a manual exposure counter which you can reset. It has an internal light meter, which I really appreciate, and the photos that I'm going to be showing you in this video, I've only been using the internal light meter and it worked fantastic. It does have also an adjustment for the ISO level of your film in very strange increments, but there are some in-between ISOs that you can set the camera to. The back does not open with a spigot. There's a separate switch on the side here to open the back of the camera. Something you need to know, very easy to use. That's all I can tell you about this camera. Very straightforward. I'm not going to do an in-depth review because there are a lot of reviews on this camera on YouTube. I can tell you though that I am very enthusiastic what a camera of €7.50 can offer you. Many of these cameras don't even get a second glance, and that's a shame, because if you can find one in perfectly working condition, you have a very nice, reliable and well-built camera to work with. I would go out, especially if you're just starting out in film photography, and buy a Zenit-E. I like the black version better than the brushed silver version, but besides that, I would go for it. I mean, listen to this shutter. It's a beautiful sound. So that was a short video on a truly budget level SLR camera, including a lens in full working condition, which will not disappoint. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, you're more than welcome to do so to keep up with all the videos that I'm going to be bringing out. I hope you enjoy the results, and I'll see you next time. Take care.